Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. So the Sony a6500 was recently announced, fairly recently. I haven't said anything about it yet because I've been thinking about it, and I've also been busy with all the other announcements. But I've been pondering the a6500, and I looked into it, checked out all the specs. I've been reviewing all the user reviews as they're coming out and reading them and seeing what I think. My initial impressions are that it's probably everything the 6300 should have been, and interestingly being released as a separate body, could have been an a6300 Mark II at a higher price level. But there are some good reasons why you would want the 6500 over the 6300 or the 6000. Now, I made some notes because I didn't want to miss any, because I've been thinking on this one, and I went through all the specs and user reviews. I'm going to try out my new reading glasses. And so basically, we've got 6 reasons why you might want to buy the 6500 over the a6300 or a6000. So the first one we have here is Ibis. And I think that's probably the biggest, most important, most significant update in the 6500. I think it should have been in the 6300, but that doesn't, neither here nor there at this point. However, that's probably the biggest significant reason you would buy the 65 over the 63 or the 6000. It's a big advantage. Any lens you put on that body is going to be image stabilized. They're claiming 5 stops. That's impressive. Even if it's just close to 5 stops, still very impressive. And certainly a reason I would, if I was looking between these 3 bodies, 6000, 63, and 65, that would really sway me towards the 65 for the Ibis alone. Because one of the strengths of the Sony system is the ability to use just about any lens out there via an adapter. And make no mistake, that's one of the nicest APS-C sensors on the market is in the a6500. It's a 24 megapixel, top performing APS-C sensor. So now you get an Ibis body, and you can use any lens, virtually any lens out there via an adapter. And pretty sweet. Next up, the touchscreen. And again, this should have been in the 6300, but the 6500 has it. I personally, huge fan of touchscreens. So big factor for me when I'm going to be considering spending, the extra $200? I think it's $1,200 for the 63 right now, $1,400 for the 65. Touchscreen's going to weigh in for me because once you have a touchscreen, it's just so nice to be able to select focus points, to go through your menu on the touchscreen. I know some people say, well, a touchscreen doesn't mean anything to me. I think once you get one and get used to it and get out of kind of old school thinking of not having one, I mean, for myself, I love it. I do not like using bodies that don't have it. So that's a big one for me. Number 3, faster and better autofocus. Now, it's got a deeper buffer. In other words, it should be able to shoot longer without running into a memory wall, running out of memory. And it has an additional processor to aid in that. So it's 300 JPEGs burst or 100 RAW plus JPEG. So what does this mean? This should take care of, fix, alleviate those camera busy warnings that 6300 and 6000 shooters are used to seeing. That was an issue, if you want to call it an issue. It was something that happened frequently on the other 2 bodies. So the 6500, it should do away with that. The other thing is it's still 11 frames per second. So that's the same as the 6300. So it's not faster in that regard, which is interesting because you would have thought with an additional processor and a deeper buffer, maybe they could have squeezed out another frame per second. But 11 is still very respectable. Okay, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Ibis, which is the built-in 5-axis image stabilization in body. Touchscreen, faster and better AF. The shutter. Now, this is an interesting one because the shutter apparently has been updated and tested to 200,000 cycles, which is great. But I haven't seen anywhere that Sony is actually guaranteeing that. I don't think that's part of the warranty. I could be wrong. If any of you guys have seen that, leave in the comments below. Let me know. But from what I've seen, all they've said is that it was guaranteed and tested. I don't think it was in the specs as warranted to 200,000. So take that with a grain of salt. It may, it's nice to see that, But if they're not warrantying it to that, and again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I just haven't seen that in any literature from Sony that that's part of their guarantee. That it's I haven't seen it listed as guaranteed to 200,000 cycles. If I'm wrong, let me know. Point it out to me. Show me where. I'd love to see that. Beefier grip. So that would be number 5. And this is kind of more just a fit and finish overall feel assessment for a reason why you'd want it. It's got the grip feels beefier. All the reports and user reviews are favorable to it, more in line with what you're expecting to see or what you're used to from the Alpha 7 series. So it's just kind of taking it into that pro line of Sony, if you will. Perhaps this could be thought of the a6500 as kind of their professional series of APS-C before you make that leap into full frame. So that's a welcome thing. Better in the hands, fingers get into that recessed grip a little better, and just feels better. More in line, as I said, with the Alpha 7s. And then better cooling and the heat problems solved in 4K. Now this is an interesting one because I've got a question mark here on my notes. Because from all user reports and whatnot, feedback I'm seeing, it seems like this is the case, that this has been solved. But I don't really think this was something that Sony came right out and said, we had a problem with the a6300 with this. I think they were claiming that was solved with the firmware, whereas I don't really think it was. My friends that own the a6300 and all the user reports, the thing still bricks up, shuts off, whatever, in a very short period of time, shooting 4K. There's been some interesting tweaks and workarounds for that involving all sorts of things, cooling fans and all sorts of other things. But apparently the 6500, it's kind of like Sony officially didn't acknowledge there was still a problem with the 63, but they addressed it in the 65. So kind of a underhanded fix, kind of a quiet fix, which is great still if that's what's happened. If they have fixed it, kudos, 2 thumbs up, because that was an issue. Something that, one of the main things that would prevent me from buying a Sony, because I need it to shoot in 4K in body without using an external recorder. And that was, another way to fix the a6300. Shoot 4K to an external recorder. That's a huge added expense, especially compared to my GX8 here or the G85 I have here that shoots perfectly fine in camera to an SD card. Okay, so that was, I guess that's number 6. So that's the 6 reasons why you might want the 6500 over the 63 or the 6000. Now, some kind of finishing notes here. These are, as I mentioned at the beginning, probably all things that should have been in the 6300 when it was released. So it was almost like maybe they rushed it to market and then they didn't, as an afterthought, they're like, oh, we should have put this in. Or, you know what, maybe that was foresight. Maybe they knew they wanted to differentiate the APS-C product line, because you can still buy a 6000, you can still buy a 6300, and now you can buy the 6500. So maybe they're wanting that differentiation in the product line, the ability to sell them. It's $200 difference between the 63 and the 65. And actually, it's a lot more difference. It's over $900 because currently the 6000 is $478 on Amazon. So I'll put the link below. You can check that out on Amazon. The 6000 is still an amazing camera. For photo work only, I would probably buy the 6000. Although the Ibis really makes me think. But if you want 4K and photo, then I would probably jump right to the 65, because hopefully it's correct what I'm hearing and seeing about the heating issues been solved for 4K. But if you just want a great deal on an excellent photo camera, in other words, you just want to do photography, the 6000 at $478 is a heck of a steal right now. And I'm actually even thinking about grabbing one just as a nice body for doing some portrait work with a fast lens via an adapter. I like to use focus peaking with some of my older lenses. Gives you a top-of-the-line APS-C sensor in a small form factor with some older lenses. I really like that idea. And you really got to think, do I want to spend like 3 times the price, over 3 times the price, or right around 3 times the price, $900 and something more, just to get Ibis? Do you really need Ibis? It's a good question. Over the 6000, I'm saying, not over the 6300. Anyways, what do you guys think? Are these 6 reasons enough for you? Is one of them enough? Are several of them combined enough to make you want to buy the 6300? Are you still interested in the 6000? I'd be interested to hear your feedback. Leave your comments below in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Is this enough to buy the 6500 for you? Is that what you're leaning towards? Do you still really just want a 6000 because the price right now is amazing? Or is the 6300 somehow enough for you right there and you're going to do a workaround on video? Let me know. Let's discuss it. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon here at artoftheimage.com.